In this video, we're going to talk about Bindy, a data binding system for Unity. This is a very simple and easy to use system that has a lot of options, and it's very good for new users and also for experienced users. It has a single component and you can bind anything you want. It does automatic conversions, and you can also add new converters for these conversions from one type to another, from float to whatever you want. And it also has transformers, and these are a way to apply changes to data before it is set by a bindable, before the value is set to the variable's value. All right, you can get Bindy in 3 ways, and let me show you. So you can get it from the Unity Asset Store and run right now, because it's a promotion. You can get it at a lower price than the regular value. You can get it from our store, from the Doozy store. And again, because it's just been released, you have a promotional value. Or you can get it by getting Doozy UI Manager Pro, the subscription version, that already contains it. And here you have all the systems inside Pro, and this includes Bindy, right? All right, so let's also see some features. So, like it says here, Bindy is the ultimate Unity data binding system. Save time and optimize performance by easily binding anything to anything. No coding required. Actually, if you're doing specialized stuff, you might need some coding, but yeah. In most use cases, you don't. Now, it supports one-to-one connections or many-to-many. One-to-many, many-to-one. It works either way. It really doesn't matter. And the way it works, let me show you actually a diagram. Where can I get it from here? So you have a component, the one that you're using in the editor, that creates or connects a bind. And then you have your bindables, and they can be anything you want. So these are your senders, your bidirectional, and your receivers. Now I'm gonna read this. So in Bindy, the binder component creates and connects to a bind using a bind ID. And a bind can have multiple bindables connected to it by using connection types. Sender sends data, bidirectional sends and receives data, and receiver only receives data. All right, and I'm going to show you this diagram right now. But before I do that, let me show you the other things that make up the system. So you have your connection types, and you have your update modes. So when you're creating a binding system, a way to detect if a value has changed, you have a limited set of options. You can either use, for the more complex things, you can use and optimize things. You can use the observable pattern, or you can use the iNotified property changed interface. But in order to do that, you would have to have access to the entire code and build it that way, which it's not always, if it's ever the case. You are always using code or libraries that were not written by you or by your team, and you will want to see whether a value has changed without having the possibility of having an observable pattern or using iNotify property change. So what do? Well, the easiest way to do it is to set in an update method in a mono behavior in Unity. So this is in the Unity context, right? In the context of Unity. So you set in your update method, you say to check whether the value has changed. And when it has, you trigger something. Now this has some issues. First, it will add a lot of overhead if you're doing this a lot of times. And then there is the problem with timescale. So let's say it's a game and the user pauses the game. You no longer You're no longer checking when the update is happening because update doesn't run. You can go with the more optimized route and do it in late update, but you still have the timescale issue. What we did with Bindy, we added some update modes, and there are some systems that perform these checks outside of Unity's timescale. And you have three options. You have Realtime, checks every frame, making it ideal for values that change often, such as player position or rotation. You have FrameBased, checks every given number of frames, let's say 5. So every 5 frames, it will check whether the value has changed, making ideal for values that change less frequently, such as health points or score. And TimeBased checks every given seconds, and you can even check 5 or 6 times per second, making it ideal for values that don't need to be updated as frequently, such as game times or countdowns. Let's say you want every half a second, so you make it check 2 times per second, right? And this will help you calibrate how much resources that bind requires. These are more advanced stuff, but you should be aware that there are some update modes that you should be aware of. All right. Now, one of the problems with a binding system are the types of things that you're binding together. So, in order to do that, we created a system for adding converters. Converters take one value type and a different value type and convert it from type A to type B. So for example, let's say I give you the example with a slider, right? So I have a volume slider and that has a float value, let's say from 0 to 1. And I want that value to be shown in a TextMesh Pro text component. And that text variable is a string. So I would need to be able to convert from float, what the slider is giving me, to a string. The nice thing about the converter system is that it's automated. You don't have to see it. You don't have to care about it. It happens automatically. And what the system does is when you add a new converter to the system, because you can add your own, and I'm going to show you how. It's very, very easy. You just click a refresh button and the Bindy will generate code and make this compiled ahead of time. And this is very, very efficient because you're not doing any reflection to search for a converter at runtime. And you only use one converter for all your conversions per type, of course. So let me show you here. So, like I said, you have your converters. Let me show you the float to string converter, right? So this converts a float value to a string value. Actually, not vice versa, but yeah, whatever. This is a typo. There you go. All right, so we have a source type. So from float to string, it says can convert. This is the condition. I'm just checking the types. And after that, this is the simple conversion. So this is how a converter looks. It's very, very easy. And you just create a new class, implement iValue converter interface, and yeah, you're pretty much done. So this will allow you to add as many and as various type of converters as you might need. These are the ones that we deem to be the most useful. And after you create your own converter, you come here in yeah, I changed the code. You come here and you do a refresh or a global refresh. In this case, you just refresh the converters and some code will be generated for you. So you go tools, Doozy, and here say refresh Bindy converters. Now, when you click that, new code is generated and this file appears, converter registry extension. And this file contains built-in converters. Notice that this is a generated class. You don't have to edit it. This is all generated code. And your converter will appear in this list automatically. And that's pretty much it. So let's come back here. So like I said, when you need to bind different things from different types of variables, you usually need to have a converter, or you add one. If not, it will not work, of course. Another way is using a transformer. So we have converters and transformers. So how do these work? Well, like I said, again, I'm going to continue with the slider example, the volume slider. Let's say I want to show a percentage value, because a slider has a fractional value of float. So I'm going to say 0.5279221, right? So this is an ugly way of seeing the value. So I might want to say 52%, right? So this is where a transformer comes in. So the slider sends the float value to the bind. The bind then sends the float value to the bind to the text via a bindable, and because it has a transformer, it will say, okay, round this value to 2 decimal points, multiply it by 100, and then give me a string of that value and add a percent sign. So this is what a transformer would do. There are different types of transformers for phone numbers, for credit cards, for colors. I'm going to show you have quite a lot. I think around 30 transformers right away out of the box. And you also have example scenes, and I'm going to show them. By the way, you can check down for the chapters if you want to jump and you don't want to hear me talk. All right. So let's say it even has the value here. You want round up or float value to 2 decimal places and multiply by 100 before displaying it as a percentage. You got it with Bindy. You actually got it. So I'm going to show you. All right. So let's come back here. Let me show you this diagram, how it works. So I have a binder that has a bind, and it connects different bindables together to make it work. So now I'm going to start to show you how the system works. All right. Let's create let's make a background. So you have a nice thing behind it. Let's make it dark. Not that color. 2020. Let's bring the canvas. Let's bring it here, so I do not have to zoom in and out. Scale your screen size, and let's enable the event system. All right. So, like I said, I'm gonna add a text, and this will be my label. Let's add a content size feature. Center it, although it really doesn't matter. And I'm going to say 32. And this will be my value. And I also need a slider so I can show you in real time how this works. Let's say, let's make it a bit longer. So this is my slider. All right. Do I have play mode options enabled? So we move fast. Yes, perfect. All right. So let's enter play mode. And right now I have a slider that changes its value and a label that I want to connect to. One way of doing it is with a simple binder, and I add a sender and a receiver, and I'm going to do just that. So I can add it here as a component right here. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to create a new game object and do it like that so it's easier to see. So let's remove component. So let's say here Bindy binder. All right. So I have two things. I have a sender and a receiver. Who is the sender? Well, the slider. This is the one that gives me my value. So I'm going to link slider. What do I want? I want the value. All right. So I'm going to say, yeah, that's it. And then I have a receiver. This is my label. And I want to set the text. All right. And believe it or not, that's it. They're connected. That's all. This is how you create a connection. I didn't set on bind behavior on purpose because I want to show you how it works, what it does, right? By the way, if you keep your mouse here over any settings, you will see some tooltips that explain what they do, how they work, and so on. Let's enter play mode. And right now the value hasn't changed because I didn't use onBind behavior. But if I use this, they're already connected and it's very, very efficient, right? Whew, perfect. So I want to, when the slider connects to the bind, so when this bindable that has the slider, the sender, connects to the bind, I want to set the value. So I'm going to send the value to the bind. Now, when this, the receiver, connects to the bind, I want to get the value. So I want to get it, right? So now when I enter play mode, you'll see here the initial value for the slider, which is 0. There you go. If the slider has a different initial value, let's say 0.33, you will see 0.33. Now, this works because even though our binder connects a single value, so a float value, with a string value, this text variable, it uses a converter automatically. I didn't have to add it because the system knows how to get it, right? Now, this is one way of working with the system. This is the direct connection approach. Another way, and this is a bit more nicer to use from my point of view because I like a disconnected way of working with things, is by using a disconnected way, disconnected approach. And what do we see here? Well, in the center, we have a bind. And this bind has an ID, a category, and a name. And here I have two binders, so two components that are in the editor. One will add a sender. In this case, this will be my slider value. So this binder connects actually this sender to this bindable, to this bind. Jesus Christ. And this is the second binder that will bind this bindable this bindable to the bind. So this diagram shows two binders, 1 and 2, connected to the same bind using a bind ID. Each binder is adding a bindable to the bind. The left one, this one, is adding a sender, in this case our slider, while the right one is adding a receiver. This demonstrates how the system can work in a flexible and adaptable way, allowing for disconnected operations. And I'm going to create this diagram in the editor, right? So what did I say? I'm no longer using this like that. So I'm going to delete this. And I'm going to create a binder here just so I know where they are. And right now I need to set a category and a name. I can use a custom setting for testing purposes, but I would like to use a database, so I have drop down options. So I'm going to open the database and I'm going to say demo slider, and I'm going to add it, right? And right away now I have the options to say demo slider, so I have a specialized bind for this. Let's close it. Another way of seeing this is to open the dashboard. So tools, Doozy dashboard. And this is for all of our products. We have a centralized thing. And here we have Bindy stats. 24 converters are in this project and 21 transformers. Here you have the database that we just added this to. Here we have the editor UI, the one that makes all these editors nice and useful. Some help links for you. And of course, about where you have, what version you have installed, right? And here's the link directly to our website. So you can find the documentation very easily. All right. Whew. So where were we? I was creating a binder. So right now I'm creating this part of the diagram. All right. So I created the binder. I need to connect it to a bind, in this case demo slider, and now I need to add the bindable, right? So add bindable. This is the sender for my slider. I want to send its value And on bind, I'm going to say set value. That's it. Now on the label, I'm going to add another binder. I'm going to select the same ID, demo slider, and I'm going to say this is a receiver. So now I'm creating this part, right? And let's connect the label. Let's say text. Let's go a bit faster and get value. And that's it. Now they're connected just like they were connected in the previous example I've shown you, but they use two binders. Let's enter play mode and let's see it work. There you go. And now it's connected with these two binders. Yeah, it's completely disconnected. So that's how this diagram works. It's very nice. Now, let's say I want to optimize this a bit, right? Remember the update modes, these ones. How fast does it update? Well, I can optimize this by making it less obvious. So, oh, sorry, I hid everything. So let's say I want to update it to check this value every 5 frames. Now, since this has a high FPS, let's go here. You won't notice a difference. But let's say I want 10 times per second. Now you'll see that the value changes less often. See, let's say 2 times per second. So I can change the value. Yeah, it's not ideal, but there are situations where you do not want this to update that often. So you get a lot of performance just by doing that. So I'm just going to say 30 times per second, and this is very, very fast. If I say real time, this is even faster, right? So 5 times per second. There you go. It's easy. 2 times per second. It's really not that great. 10 times. Yeah, that's pretty much okay. 20 times. So you get the idea. You can optimize this. I'm going to show you an example about this. All right. So I've shown you 2 ways of creating a bind. I've shown you the binders, and we're using a converter to convert from float to string. Now I'm going to show you some transformations. All right. So this will be my converted value, right? Let's come here and put it like that. So let's say label converted. All right. Let's duplicate this. And my next will be a rounded transformer. All right. So here I'm going to say rounded value. I'm going to use the same thing, but I'm going to add a value transformer here. And I'm going to use, you have a lot of transformers out of the box. Float rounding to do 2 decimals, right? Let's enter play mode. And now, check it out. This value is always with 2 decimals. It's rounded. It's no longer raw. I said I want a percentage, right? So let's add one more. And this will be my percentage or percent. Let's say percent. Let's say here rounded. Let's say percent. And I'm going to use a different transformer. Percent to value with the percent symbol at the end, right? I can even see the settings here if I want to see how it looks. Remember, a transformer is a scriptable object, an asset, all right? So you can save different settings for different needs, but these are global settings, right? So let's enter play mode. And now right away, we have a percentage and it's done, right? That's pretty easy. Let me show you a custom percent option. So let's say my slider goes from -2 to 2, right? So now we have a problem with the percentage because it looks awful. So I'm going to use a different percent transformer that allows for negative, so negative values. So symbol negative. So check it out. Minus, all right? But what if I want to clamp the value between 0 and 100%? How can I do that? There's a transformer to that as well. So I'm going to say clamp, symbol clamp 0 to 100%. And these are the settings that are used here. So it uses the percent symbol, and you can set custom values for percent values. And check it out. I'm looking here, yeah? So as you can see, you have quite a lot of options. All right, let me show you. So basically, when you want to create a custom transformer, you say create Doozy Bindy transformer, and here are the available transformers that are in the system. They are very easy to use, and you can create more and change them to any way you want and like. And they are on the runtime, Bindy, and these are your transformers. And let's say a password transformer. Let's check it out. So this is a password transformer. This is how it looks. You tell it from which types to which types it can transform. So this is the input value of your variable, the output value. And here it's the transformation. It's very, very easy. And you can create your own, and you add your create asset menu. So it appears under the list that I've shown you. So it appears right here. Doozy, Bindy, transformer. Come on. So basically, to see this here, you just add this line of code. So you can create a lot of transformers. All right. So I've shown you these basic examples. Let me show you the example that the system comes with. All right. So I no longer need this. So I'm gonna, let's change the way this looks to screenshots so you can see it better. Actually, no, let it to video. All right, so let's find this. So these are the connection types. Let me maximize this. All right, so I have a sender in this, and also check the color coding because it is functional. So this is the sender. This sends values to all of these. This is a bidirectional. It will send the value, but and it also receive the value. Notice that this isn't changing because it's send only. And this is a receiver. So basically it can change its value, but it won't notify anyone. All right. So these are the three connection types, pretty much. All right. And you can play with this scene and see how it is collected. Yeah, it's really not that complicated. There are a lot of binds used here, a lot of binder components, and it's very efficient. Now, I've told you about the update modes. Remember? So this is the blue thing is the one that controls the red thing. So the sender and the receiver. And this is the speed at which it goes. And this is the update setting. So if I say real time, I can limit the number of checks per second. And this is how it looks. If you have something that doesn't update that often, you can get away with a lower update interval, right? Be it a frame interval or a time interval. And the user will not notice, but your performance will, right? If it's something that updates very fast, well, then you need a faster update interval. Otherwise, let's put it like that so you can see that this also changes, right? So yeah, there are different settings here at play. So in Bindy, you can choose how often a bindable object updates its value. Basically, the has value changed check. This can improve performance by reducing overhead, and it really does. All right. Next, Boolean. Now, in this particular thing, you have a bool to string transformer. So basically, it will say true or false, enable or disabled, on, off, open, close. You can write whatever you want here. And let me even show you how the transformer looks, because it's important. So let's go to enable, disabled, items, toggle binder. So basically, it's using this transformer that has, when the value is true, sets the value, the string value to enabled. When it's false, it sets the disabled value. So basically, what it passes to this string, to the label, right? And you can add as many as you want. I think you have several options. So you have on, off, open, close, open, and you can add your own. Let's say I want to create a new transformer that has ping and pong as my values, right? So I'm going to do just that. Let's go here, create Doozy Bindy transformer. I want a new Boolean transformer, and I'm going to call this ping pong, right? So when the value is true, I want to say ping. When the value is false, I want to say pong, right? And now let's use it with this one, or actually with this one, right? So let's go binder. This is the top one. Okay, let's use this one. So I'm going to say ping pong, right? I can see it here. And now this will have ping pong. There you go. So this is how easy it is to set your values to whatever you might want. Maybe use localization and use a different type of string. You can also do that. All right. Let's go to my next example, color to hex. So basically, if you have a string value, it can convert it to a color value. Now, you may have a database with colors, and you cannot send a color as the data, but you can send a hex value. And in this particular example, it converts a color value. Actually, no, this is converts the value to its hexadecimal string. This is what Unity uses, by the way. So this value has this hex, and yeah. Whew, let's go to a credit card. Now we're getting into something more interesting. So this is, let me maximize, a formatter. So basically, let's say you're getting some credit card info with your app or your game, and you have an input field, and you want to show the value somewhere in your UI. So basically, the moment that you start typing, let's say something like that, notice that it adds the proper formatting, right? And if it's longer, you won't see anything. It has some fail safes, right? And it will work with different types of formatting. So Diners Club has 2, I think 2, 4, 6, and 4. Union Pay has again a different formatting. So this is a credit card transformer. Let me show you how it looks. What if I can find, let's say Amex. Oh my God, this is so much. Oh, it doesn't have settings, but this is quite a big transformer. I think I can show you the code. Bindy transformers credit card. So basically, this is the code for the credit card. It's quite long, but the idea is that you can add different patterns and it will work. All right, let's go to currency transformer. I don't want to see the code. I want to see the example. Sorry. Now, again, if you're displaying some prices in your application or game, you might want to save the value in your database as a set number, and you need some formatting. And this is where this comes in, because you can have a lot of formatting types. And I would like to show you some of them. You can add more, of course. Let's go to runtime. Go on. So these are the settings. So basically, where do you want the symbols for the currency, right? So notice that there are different values here. So for euro, you have the group separator, decimal separator, and how many decimals you want to show. And I think this is very useful because it's a simple drag and drop and you just use it. If you want to create a new one, you can do that very easily. So I have USD somewhere here, all right? So it uses this currency symbol. If I say USD, something like that, if I enter play mode, you will see that now I have USD. Let's also add a space, and it will add a space. Let's say I want no decimal spaces. Well, you won't have any decimal spaces. Check it out. So that's how easy it is. Now let's go back to the default value. And yeah, it's very, very easy. Again, let's continue. DateTime. You might like this one. You have a lot of transformers for DateTime, a lot of pre-made things. Day, month, year, full date, general date, hour, minute. Yeah, you can read from here. And they look like that. You can check it out here. And you can also set custom settings. So let's see, full. Let's maximize. So for me, this is when I'm doing this particular video. So you can see the date now. I really don't like this free aspect bullshit. All right, perfect. All right, so here I'm using a transformer. Basically, I'm setting a DateTime value. I can add minutes. I can add hours. I can add days, weeks, months, years. All right, now, tomorrow, yesterday, and so on. Yeah, so depending on your formatting setting, you can have short date, long date, full date, general date, and all these other things. Of course, if it updates constantly, if it's a watch, you will see it works. You'll see it work, right? It's very, very easy. Doozy UI Manager also has a clock component and a time and a countdown component, timer, and you can use this in conjunction with that, and you'll have a wonderful time. Now, in a lot of applications, you may not want to show the date like that, the time like that. And there is a term for that, and it's called DateTime to time ago. Let me show you the transformer so you can see how it looks. So basically, instead of giving you a time, it says it happens just now. Just now it just happened. Or you received an invitation 5 days ago, or the invitation is in 2 days. Let's say you're giving you have a game, and in 3 hours the user is given a new life, or 5 more lives to play. All right, and you want to show that to your user. Well, instead of showing him a set, so let's say it's 5 o'clock, you're gonna see it in 3 hours, so at 8 o'clock. Instead of giving him a time, I'm gonna say in 3 hours, or in 2 minutes, or you received a life 1 minute ago. So this is DateTime to time ago. This is a concept, right? So let me enter here, because you just have to see it. So if it was 1 minute ago, so something happened a minute ago, right? 5 minutes ago, an hour ago, a day ago, yesterday, if it's 2 days ago, then 1 week ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 1 month. You get the idea. So this happened in the past, all right? So now we count in years. What if you go in the future? Let's go back to right now, and let's add 1 second. So something that will happen in the future. All right, and I'll say in 1 minute. in 2 minutes, in 1 hour. So something will happen in 1 hour. This is a future time, right? In tomorrow, if it's tomorrow, in 1 week, yeah, in 6 days. So you can see how basically I'm adding days now. Let's add weeks. Let's add months. And finally, we can work with years. So this is a nice way of showing date time to time ago. Of course, you can also add your, if you're using localization, you can change these values and you can localize it. Okay, sorry. I've been talking for a long time. I think this is a long video. Next, duration. This is a pretty straightforward thing. It will show you your duration from a float value, right? So you have a duration in seconds, and it will turn it into a human readable string. So if you're saving in your database something that takes, I don't know, this many seconds, it will save 6 minutes and 2 seconds. So yeah, it's again a formatting thing. Note that if I recall correctly, this transformer has the duration one has also a custom format string. So you can create different variations of it depending on your needs. Maybe you do not want to see the hour, or maybe it's something just for the seconds or minutes. Yeah, you can change that like so. Next, file size, another transformer. So again, you have a long value. This also, I made it work with int, and it will say its file size, and you can add as many types as you need. And let me show you the scriptable object, the asset that handles this. So basically, you can add your unit size, because this also works with meters or whatever you want. I think file size is bad for this. It should be unit size. And I say bytes, kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes, and terabytes. You can add more if you want. It will update accordingly. Then we have float rounding. Let's see float rounding. So here in this example, we have a raw value. This uses only a converter from a float to string. This is a transformer with 0 decimals, so it just rounds the number. This rounds to 1 decimals, and this to 2 decimals right out of the box. It's pretty straightforward. All right, next, float to vector 2. Now this is interesting. Basically, what I'm doing here is getting the slider value and applying it either to the x or the y, or both x, y values of a vector, right? So I'm applying it to the scale. So how does this work? Let me show you float to vector to set x. So basically I'm getting the float value and I'm setting the x value. I'm setting the y value and I'm setting them both. The same thing is for vector 3. Again, I can get one float value and affect the other. This is very useful for animations, or in this case for this particular example. So let's go to vector 3. Here you have all the available variations. So x, y, z, x, z, it doesn't matter. You get the idea how this works. The z scale, you cannot see it, but it does change. All right, password. Now, in a lot of cases, you may want to show the user a password. Of course, the input field can hide it, but if you have the password saved in a database and you want to show it to the user without showing him the entire password, this is where this transformer comes in, because it is set by default to show the first 3 characters of the password. All right, let's enter play mode so you can see it in action. Like I said, this system is very useful. So this is my password. This is the way it would show. But by using this transformer, this just shows the first 3 characters, and then a custom character for the password. So let me show you the, there you go. So the mask character and visible character. So you have some options here. As you can see, even here you have all the, you have tooltips, right? So you can handle this. Where I'm doing a lot of this. Percent. Now, the percent, you have a lot of options because you can either convert, in order to show a percent, you can either show from 0 to 1 or maybe from 0 to 100, right? So this goes from -2 to 2, and this is how the percent changes, right? So here we have the converted value, nothing applied, and here you have the transformed value using the percent value transformer. And here we're just changing the multiplying by rounding the value and multiplying by 100. This is doing the same thing but adding the symbol character, and this one allows for negative values, while this one goes from 0 to 100 and adds the symbol but clamps it between 0 and 100%. Like I said, you have a lot of options. This works the same way, but this slider goes from -200 to 100, all right? So check out the slider's value, all right? And it only uses whole numbers. There you go. So as you can see, the system works with different types of things. And when developing an app or a game, you will definitely need this a lot of the times. Let me show you the percent settings because it is quite complex. And let's see this one. So clamp, you can set min max percent values, allow negative symbol. So as you can see, this is the same transformer, but it has different settings enabled. And you can create your own and do your thing, right? Just a few more and we're done. Phone number. Now, phone number is quite tricky to pull off. This was a challenge. So when you enter the user, or maybe you have a phone number in your database, just note that it will identify international numbers. And as you can see, you have a pattern here, and it will respect that pattern. So let's say the Canadian number, all right? And say 416. And as you type it, it also does the formatting. There you go. And again, this is for the international number. It really doesn't matter if you have a space here or not. So yeah, this is how the formatting works. And we made it very simple because you can add your own formatting. And I'm going to show you how it looks and how it works. So for the phone number, check it out. This is how you add the pattern. You just add it like that. And you just use it. You can see it here, right? So for Mexico, this is the pattern. For Japan, it's a different pattern. We just search for several international patterns and we just apply them here. So it's very easy to use if you have a certain number. Of course, you can use this for different things. Maybe you want to show some numbers, not necessarily phone numbers, and you can use this pattern system. All right. Yeah, I think there's a problem here. So this is for the international phone. This is for the local phone. I think we should change the labels. All right. Let's continue. Range mapper. Now, range mapping means that if you have a value from 0 to 1, you want to map it to maybe 0 to 100, or maybe to 50, from 50 to 80, all right? So range mapping does exactly that. This is the default one that we're showing, but it can do a lot of other things, just so you're aware of them, right? So this is range mapping. String to color. Basically, you add a string value and it will show you a color. So let's say you want to give the user the option to set custom colors. Of course, you can use a color picker, but that color picker will give you a value and you can convert it to hex. And then you can save it in your database as a string. And then when you want to retrieve the color, you can use this. So let me, let's say FF 00. All right, so I can change the color. Free C4, whatever. And I can also add transparency. So let's say 66, and this is the transparent with an alpha value. So yeah, this is a string, takes the value of a string that is a hex and converts it to a color. All right, text. Now you have a lot of text transformers, and let me show you. So basically here you enter some text, and depending on the transformer that you use, you can capitalize each word. First word capitalization. So let's say hello world. No, help. Hello world. All right. And depending on what type of transformer you used, it will say sentence case, capitalized, lowercase, uppercase, trim, no spaces. So you can have all of these operations performed on your string value right out of the box, and there are a lot of text options available. So there you go. These are just some of the settings that we added, but you have a lot of settings. There you go. Trim, no spaces. So you can remove diacritics. Non-alphanumeric, numeric, you can even reverse the text. It really depends on what you want to do as an operation. What else do we have? Well, we have a time. And again, this takes a float value as a second and shows you the time. You can also change the formatting. My voice is giving out. You can change the formatting. Where is the time? Time. There you go. And right now it's set to hour, minute, seconds, and milliseconds. But you can also change that. So for this particular example, we have that. But let's say I do not want those last parts. So now I can have it like that. I shouldn't have changed this at runtime. It doesn't recover. So let's say, yeah, let's try it now. And now I no longer see the last part, right? There you go. So 39 minutes and 11 seconds. Okay, remember when you're changing the value of a transformer asset, that is a global setting, so it will affect all the others. So if you want some custom settings, you just have to set them and use them beforehand. And finally, vector free. What we're doing here is setting the X, the Y, and the Z value for a vector free. All right. And of course, you're also seeing a different thing here. You're seeing the display of that value. Basically, you're also seeing float to vector free to string. Yeah. So let's go to the transformers, Bindy transformers. There's also a vector2 to float, vector2 transformer, vector3 to float. So you can get one value or the other. All right, so that's pretty much for the Bindy system. It is very useful. You can bind a lot of things. Let me show you one more example with code. Let's say I have a player name. All right, so let's create a script. And here I want to save some data. So let's add a class and say player info. All right. I'm going to set it as a mono behavior. Namespace, let's say sandbox. We need to have a namespace. Just ignore it, please. All right. And here I have a public name. Perfect. And I'm going to say on start. So in start, I want to get this name value from, let's say, load from player prefs, for example. All right. So, oh, perfect. Get string name, default value John Doe. All right. And let's say on disable, I'm gonna save to player prefs. And again, I get to save the value. All right. So how can I use this in my system? How can I link this and basically always have the name? And I'm going to show you right now. Let's actually change this particular example. It's very easy. So this is an actual use case, right? So let's clear the content. I do not want to see it. For the footer, where is my footer? I'm gonna hide it. And for the header, I'm gonna hide the title container because I don't care. All right, perfect. So what did I say? Well, let's add our player info. And I'm gonna say player info. Didn't I save it? Mono behavior. I said payer info. Yeah. There you go. Payer info. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you an input field and a text field. Actually, I'm going to use an input field and show you how you can have persistent data, save it and load it with this system. Right. So this will be my player info. Right now, I do not have a name, right? So if I enter play mode, it will say John Doe. And when I come back, it won't have anything. All right, so let's create an input field. Where is it? Input field, right here. And this will be my player info. And how do I connect this to player info? Well, I'm going to use a bidirectional connection. So I'm going to say a binder. Let's open my database and I'll say player info, player name. Let's say something like that. All right, so I'm going to say this is my demo player name at Bindable. I'm going to get this and I'm going to say the name variable. And this will be a bidirectional and set value. All right, that's pretty much it. And for the input field, I'm gonna add a another binder. Again, this is a disconnected way of working with the system, and it's very nice. Again, bidirectional. Now I'm gonna get the text, not the placeholder. And here I'm gonna say text value. Right. There you go. And I'm gonna say get value. All right. So you will see when we enter play mode that this value will be already populated, right? Where is it? Player info, set value. And what's the current value? Nothing. All right. So let's come back. Let's come here, maximize. So if I say Doozy, actually Bindy, let's save this and exit play mode. Now the value has been saved. So let's enter again play mode and the value should be loaded. Let's see, get value bidirectional text and player info. Am I missing anything? Text get value, all right. Oh, yeah, I should have used the input field. Sorry, my bad. So I should have linked the input field. I don't know why I linked the text. Input field, and I'm going to set text. Yeah. That's my mistake. All right. So now let's maximize. So let's say here Bindy, right? Let's enter exit play mode and enter again. And now, as you can see, the value has been loaded. If I say hello world, something like that, can you see it? Let me zoom to it. If I say hello world, let's save it exactly like that. Exit play mode. Now the code will save to player preferences or wherever you want to save. And now the next time I load the app, the game, the program, whatever, this value will be loaded and injected here, right? So this works. And again, I enter play mode, this works. So that's a simple save and load system and a bidirectional connection between my player info and a input field. It's really very easy to use. I didn't write a single line of code to make this connection work. Of course, you will have this code for your player info, so whatever things you want to show, but you do not need to write connection codes. And another good thing about this, you can just lower the update settings. For example, when the player info changes, say do it 5 times per second, so it doesn't happen that often. So basically I'm improving performance just by doing that. All right, so that's it for this system. I hope you found this presentation useful. If you wanna check it out, you're more than welcome to do that. It took a lot of work to create this architecture and to make it easy to use. And yeah, I hope you create wonderful things with it if you choose to use it, and give us some feedback. And yeah, I hope you like it. All right, thank you very much. I know this was a long video, that's why it has chapters, but this is a very complex system. Although it's easy to use, it has a lot of specialized settings. I didn't show a coding example because you can inject bindables into a bind. You can even create a bind from code. You don't really need a binder component, but these are more advanced tutorials. We may do that at a later date. All right, thank you very much, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.